Alright, what's up, guys? I am back, finally, after a long absence of doing absolutely nothing on here. With my good pal Ethan, today we are reviewing Star Wars The Last Jedi. Came out last week. It is currently December 22nd. Came out on the 15th. What? And there's spilled pop on the jeans. We're gonna move past that. We've had a week to settle our minds, to prepare our comments on the movie, our reviews, what we think of it, what we like, what we dislike. We've let it simmer in our minds, and now it is time. I actually got to see it on Thursday, the day before it came out. I saw the special preview. Did you see it on Friday?
Oh, I saw it on Thursday.
Oh, you did? Where was that? Which one?
I don't remember.
You don't remember the theater? Okay,
No,
cool.
I think it's Regal.
Alright. Well, anyway, first question. If you could describe the movie in one word, what would it be? Put you on the spot here.
I don't know. I feel like it was kind of paradigm shifting, but that's two words.
That's two words. But if you put
Para-shifting.
if you put a slash in there,
Yeah.
it's one word.
I think that works.
Alright, why is that? Why do you think that?
I think it just kind of shifted the paradigm, you know?
How so?
It was interesting in a completely different way than any other Star Wars movie today, I think, because it was less of a fun good guy versus bad guy adventure movie, and I think I respected it in a more kind of nuanced, artistic, kind of thought-provoking way than the other Star Wars movies, because it just had more of a deeper meaning, I think, than any of the other ones, more real-life implications and whatnot. It's different.
Alright, a word I would use is underwhelming, and we can get into all the negative aspects of the film as we go on, but let's start off on a good note with the positives. What did you like about the movie? What were some high points?
I thought it was directed really well. I thought there was some good shots, just like Luke dying with the binary sunset on Tatooine, which mirrored episode 4 and how we kind of started off how the story kind of kicked off. I thought that was pretty poetically done. I liked floating Leia, but it was kind of like
Mary Poppins Leia.
Yeah, I liked it, but I feel like the way they intended it isn't the reason I enjoyed it. Like, I kind of enjoyed it because, Carrie Fisher just kind of passed away recently, so it was, interesting to see her, lingering in between life and death, and then, coming back is kind of just, weirdly, foreshadowing in, kind of an emotional kind of moment for me. But I mean, obviously that was shot before that happened, so it's not like they intended that.
It was all CGI.
It was still something that I enjoyed about the movie, nonetheless. I liked this shot where the Resistance pilot was clutching onto her necklace, which represented the hope she felt, and largely the hope which represents the rebellion as she was enveloped by flames of her own ship because she got, shot up.
That was Rose's sister.
Yeah, I thought there was just some really good. I thought it was directed really well. There was some good shots,
Mm-hmm.
I liked that. It had, to me, a lot more nuance. Like, Kylo Ren is a good example. Like, Darth Vader, the main villain in the original trilogy, was just kind of a black and white bad guy. Whereas Kylo Ren is like this kind of morally untraceable, like, conflicted kid who doesn't strike me as bad. He just strikes me as, like, somebody who is abused and abandoned and who feels all this hate in his heart. But, I mean, obviously he feels compassion and empathy because, he saved Rey by cutting Snoke in half. But, like, he strikes me as somebody who's not bad in nature, but was put in bad circumstances and is unable to escape his dark side, because he did lean towards the light side, but eventually he was unable to escape his lust for power, and I think that adds more, like, nuance than just an evil guy. And I think that makes the story a little bit more unpredictable because, a bad guy always loses in a story like this, but since we don't really know if he's good or bad yet, and he's kind of in between, we don't really know how he's going to end up.
Mm-hmm. I compared him a lot to Anakin Skywalker in the prequels, like you said, conflicted, and ultimately Anakin turned into Darth Vader, as we know, but there might be some good at the end of the tunnel for Kylo Ren. Like you said, there were some good shots. I thought it was pretty epic how Kylo Ren and Rey teamed up against the First Order, the guards.
I really liked that scene.
After killing Snoke. Yeah.
I thought Finn and Rose's character arc, like their kind of storyline throughout the movie it took me a couple viewings to actually enjoy it.
How many times did you see it?
Twice.
So only literally a couple?
Yeah. The first time I was kind of like, it's just a mediocre story. It was just kind of filler the first time. But the second time I kind of admired the philosophical aspect of it and the nuance it held because, I felt like when Finn and Rose were looking down at the city and he was like, it's beautiful, and she was like, look closer, and he observed that this beautiful atmosphere they created was truly built on the backs of abused creatures and humans.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I felt like that had really real life societal implications because there are so many aspects of life that we find beautiful and entertaining are really built on the backs of oppression, or it's built on oppression. For example, iPhones, Nike were all made by little slave kids in Chinese sweatshops.
Is that a fact?
I don't know. I'm pretty sure. I know a lot of our goods are made by slave children in sweatshops.
The Chinese
zoos and rodeos are entertaining to us, but they're really built on the backs of abused animals. It's just like I felt like that had really real life implications, and it was kind of thought provoking. And I liked how, in the end, I found it really poetic how the people who had made this awesome place, and they made their money and were able to create this place through oppressing and abusing these creatures, and that place was eventually destroyed by the creatures they abused to create it. So I felt like that was kind of a pretty poetic loop of, like a pretty poetic chain of events. Mm-hmm. And I think one of my favorite parts, this is my last thought on this storyline, I think one of my favorite parts was when Finn was like, it was worth it, making them hurt. And she, like, released that animal, and she is like, now it's worth it. Mm-hmm. I think that was interesting because the whole theme of the movie was a balance between the dark side, which represents, like, anger and passion, and the light side, which represents, like, peace and empathy. And I think it's interesting because, like, when you're watching these things destroy the bad people, you're like, yeah, these bad people, they deserve this, and you're getting all, like, pumped up, and adrenaline's rushing, and you're all, like, hyped up about it. But in the midst of all this, like, anger you feel for these, rich people, you forget why you care in the first place, which is your empathy. And she kind of reminds you of that, and she's taking the theme of the movie, which is a balance between the dark side and the good side, and she's making you feel it within yourself by making you, like, notice your balance between the anger and passion you're feeling mixed with, like, the empathy and, will for peace that you're feeling, like, for the animals. So she's kind of projecting the theme of the movie into the mind of the viewer, and I thought that was pretty cool.
You saw it twice. I saw it once, and I think once was enough to turn me off from that storyline. Like you said, you went into depth of how, like, the meaning behind all of it. Yeah, that was really poetic. But, like, I saw it as a love story where this new girl was clinging on to Poe, and Poe wasn't really feeling it, but Rose was. And, like, the thing that really got me was, like, why did she save Finn when he was gonna risk his life for the resistance to escape? Like, in the end, near the end, Finn was that was like the heartfelt moment of the entire movie. Like, Finn was gonna risk his life to save everyone, but then she comes out of nowhere and saves both of them, and is like, there's another way. But, like, it would have been so, I actually would have felt something for once in this movie after, like, 2.5 hours of sitting through nonsense.
Well,
if she hadn't done that,
I thought.
And then she gave him a kiss, and then I was like, why? And then she dies? Question mark.
Yeah. I found the fact that he was driving into the thing, I found that whole part really, really interesting, and I like how kind of Poe and Finn's character arcs really complemented each other's in a way. Like, by the beginning of the movie, Finn was wanting to run away from the Resistance and, like, escape because he's kind of cowardice. And Poe was, like, too gung-ho, like, too quick to rush into a battle. And by the end, they both kind of did this 180 where they were both on opposite sides of the spectrum, and then they kind of, like, flipped, where Poe learned his maturity and kind of, like, his strategic flexibility when he was like, alright, let's call everybody off at the end of the film, when he called his troops off, which was unthinkable for him at the beginning of the film. And by the end, and Finn, on the other hand, started off too cowardice and ended up too gung-ho when he was trying to run right into the thing. So they both kind of did this flip, like, character-wise, and their character developments really opposited each other. And I thought that was pretty interesting.
Another thing I liked was, like, we actually cared about Poe in this movie. Maybe that's because he had more screen time, like, way more screen time than he did in The Force Awakens. Like, in The Force Awakens, he was in, like, a handful of scenes. But in this movie, like, there's a lot of character development, and
Yeah.
I think he's like Han Solo 2.0, where like we care about him.
Yeah.
And he's this kind of cool, not anti-hero, but like on the edge.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's just one of those characters where, you know, you want to hang around Poe, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I really liked Benicio del Toro's character, who was he was the code breaker or whatever.
What I didn't like is the stutter. I didn't like the stutter.
Yeah, that was kind of annoying, but I liked his character arc because it seemed like the entire purpose of his character was to mess with the viewer's perception of right and wrong. Like, how he was like, they were like, yeah, these guys are bad, and then he was like, yeah, but these guys sold weapons to the Resistance and the First Order. He's like, good and bad are made up words, and then that kind of just makes you like think, you know, it's kind of just thought-provoking sentence. And then later on, he takes her medallion thing that she had matching with her sister, and it makes you see him as morally bad, but then he uses it to further their cause and gives it back to her, which makes you see him as morally good. And then he turns on them, and which makes you see him as morally bad again. But then he justifies it as saying, like, I'm not in favor of the First Order. It's just, you know, they blow you up today, you blow them up tomorrow, and that kind of makes you see him as neutral. So, like, in the short amount of screen time he has, he just kind of plays with your perception of what's good and what's bad, and just kind of knocks it back and forth until it really forces you to think about, like, you know, philosophy and ethics is a subject. And I think this movie forces the viewer to really think in a way that no other movie has. You know, what do you think of...
What happened to him, to his character? Did he die?
No, he didn't die. Well, he might have died, because that lady, which is, I might add, another beautiful shot, another beautiful moment in this movie, this lady, like, used her hyper speed to just blast right into that First Order ship, and he was on that ship, but not everybody on that ship died, so he could have, like, gotten sucked out into space or blown up, but he could have survived. We don't really know.
Maybe he pulled a Leia and flew back to his ship.
Yeah.
But, like, it feels like everything leading up to him betraying Poe and Rose was, like, a waste of a whole half hour.
Well,
of, like, story building on nothing. Just to have it 180 and
yeah,
him turning on them.
I think that's a fair point, but I also think that it's important what that did. Well, it did in a sense kind of waste some time of the movie. I do kind of feel like its purpose was that it did the same thing The Empire Strikes Back did, in that it showed you that the good guys don't always win. And when you have when you have something unexpected happen, like, yeah, you take it for granted that the good guys are going to win, and then it does a 180, like you said, and the bad guys win, I feel like that kind of adds some unpredictability to the story and kind of, like, throws you off your seat a little bit, so you're a little more on edge, like, oh, they did this, what are they going to do next, what's going to happen, and it kind of makes you, like, it kind of makes it more suspenseful when it, like, throws you off like that.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, it could be taken as just a waste of time. It's really just depends on how you choose to view it.
Mm-hmm.
How did you like Rey and Kylo Ren's whole story?
I thought that was interesting.
How did you like Luke's character? Because that's a very controversial point of the movie.
I was gonna get into that in the cons part of the review.
Oh, there's a cons part.
There is a cons. We're on the pros right now.
I thought we were just.
Or we can just.
I thought we were just rambling.
We can bleed everything in if you want.
I don't care.
Yeah, Kylo and Rey. that was interesting because, like, they expanded on the capabilities of the Force, and, like, they expanded on what people can use it for. Like, what...
I completely agree.
Yeah, and this movie made me realize that the Force, like, it mentioned in other movies, like mostly the prequels, that the Force is something that binds everything together. Like, it's the creation of the entire universe, and like we kind of knew everyone was capable of it, but like we mostly only saw it in Jedi, you know. But in this movie, it's like the Force is within everybody.
Yeah.
And its powers are, like, really unlimited. So, like, I thought it was interesting that, like, they could finally expand on it to where two Force users still in training could see each other even when they didn't want to, like, somehow, like, they were connected by something.
Yeah. I really did love how they expanded upon the Force in this movie, because, like, people like Old Ben gave some insight to it, like in episode 4 when he was like, it's a power that binds us, and it's in between all living things. He had, like, a 10-second thing of dialogue on it, but that's really it. Like, that's all the explanation they gave to the Force. And I think so many kids, like 10-year-olds, not trying to diss anybody. I'm just saying, like, I think so many people watch it and just think of the Force is what Rey explained.
Moving rocks.
They just think of it as, like, moving stuff around. And I really like how this movie went in depth to explain how it's not just something that makes things move. It's like this life force that's, like, in all of us. Like, it's like everything, you know? It's this... It kind of went into the more spiritual definition of it rather than just the commercial appeal of it. And I like how it expanded upon our knowledge of the Force without changing what it previously was at all. Like, it didn't change what the Force was, it just kind of added more to it. And I appreciated that.
Yeah.
I liked Luke's astral projection. That was a cool Force ability that we've never seen before that they added in. I liked the visuals that they gave when Luke was explaining the Force. And I liked
yeah. That was something new.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I liked when Rey was in that tunnel and she saw, like, the mirrors and there was, like, an infinite loop of herself. And I thought that was a cool way to, like, visualize how somebody who is completely in touch with the Force perceives time, because, like, the Force is not... It's not, like, linear time-wise. It's, like, everything that's ever happened and ever will happen, and it's all just kind of in one space of, like, energy, and that kind of expanded more upon that, whereas, like, that topic was only briefly mentioned in, like, one subtle line by Yoda in the prequels.
And they demonstrated how easy it was to fall into that black pit of darkness, like the dark side, and like how Luke was disappointed that Rey did nothing to stop it.
Yeah, but he didn't. That's the thing that kind of weirded me out. Is like he was like, you didn't even try to stop yourself, but like he didn't explain to her what it was.
Well, he told her to stop, like, to go back.
That's true.
To try, but like she was, her curiosity is the thing that led her to go deeper, cause she could have stopped it, but she didn't.
I liked the choreograph of the fight scene with Rey and Kylo Ren fighting the Royal Guards.
Yeah, that was great.
I thought that was a great fight scene. Because, like,
there's like 2 battles in the movie, wasn't there?
Yeah, and one of them was not even really a real battle. They didn't, Kylo Ren and Luke didn't clash lightsabers once.
Oh, yeah.
But I thought it was well choreographed because, like, I appreciate the fight scenes in the new movie because the old ones are not very good. Like, I mean, they're okay, but there's not one lightsaber fight from the original trilogy where I can watch and I'm like, that's awesome. You know,
I think it's because, like, I bet it was awesome back then because it was new. Like, it hadn't been done before. But then they, like, completely went to the extreme in the prequels.
Yeah,
but
I think the prequels were kind of, like, I mean, they were cool. I liked the lightsaber fights from the prequels, but they were really, like, it almost seemed like a dance recital.
I'll watch the Duel of Fates anytime and still get excited.
Yeah.
Like, that was great.
Yeah. It just kind of felt like somewhat of like a dance recital. Like, it was very acrobatic and choreographed. Mm-hmm. Whereas the new ones, when I watched them, like, fighting, the lightsabers, like, it looks like a fight from, like, Game of Thrones, where, like, the lightsabers are, like, all heavy and forceful, and they're, like, clashing, and it's, like, it's realistic. It's realistic to the point where it's believable, but not realistic to the point where it's really cool to watch. Like, it's a good mix of...
It's a happy medium.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was cool. Luke and Kylo Ren, I liked that backstory.
Yeah.
Like, I liked how they finally explained what happened. I thought it was kind of brutal how Luke almost killed Kylo Ren. I guess, you know?
Yeah.
I guess we don't know, because there was two stories. Like,
well, I believe
one
the
of
one
them
he told in
was... What was the first one, like?
The first one was, like, Ben attacked me and I defended myself.
Yeah.
And the second one was, like, Luke attacked me and I defended myself.
Luke was trying to kill him in his sleep.
And then in the end, Luke admitted what the actual truth was. And he was like, I walked in there to confront him. I saw his dark side. And, like, out of instinct, I pulled out my lightsaber. But it was purely instinct. It passed in a second. And then I felt ashamed and, you know, disappointed in myself. But then Ben opened his eyes and saw that I had my lightsaber out and thought I was trying to kill him. And yeah. And I think that's what the truth was, honestly. I think I'd say that's probably the correct story. You know? I don't know. I don't know. I think a lot of people say, like... Luke's bad in this movie. I don't like Luke's character because he did that to Kylo Ren. But I
questioned a lot of things about Luke in this movie.
Yeah, I kind of disagree with that point specifically, that him doing that to Kylo Ren was, like, showed him to be morally bad, because it wasn't him making the decision. It wasn't, like, Luke Skywalker thinking to himself, should I do this? Yeah, I'll kill Ben. He said it was purely out of fear and instinct. Like, it's just like that same primal fear you get when you're startled by something and your instinct is to, like, fight back. It's, you know, the fight or flight instinct, and some people have that fight instinct, like Luke, and, like, he was startled, and out of his, like, immense fear and being startled, he pulled out his lightsaber, but he said it was purely out of instinct. It passed like a fleeting shadow, and then once he realized what he'd almost done, he was as ashamed and disappointed as the fans. And I think, like, well, he didn't say that, but, you know, that's kind of what I'm
breaking
implying.
the fourth wall.
Yeah. He was like, I just think, like, a good person, or somebody who's morally good, isn't immune to bad impulses. Somebody who's good just can differentiate good impulses from bad impulses and then act accordingly. And which is exactly what he did. He realized that it was a bad impulse and said no, which is exactly what a good person does. A good person doesn't just never think they want to do anything bad. That's just unrealistic. And, like, I don't know. I just think it's kind of narrow-minded.
I think what his instincts were was, like, he has to get rid of this evil, but at the same time, that's his nephew. And, like, that would have been his own family he was killing.
Yeah.
But still, he knows what happens to Jedi when one of them turns bad. It, like, expands, and they either join them or they kill them.
Yeah.
So, and I guess by that misunderstanding, Kylo Ren killed Luke's other apprentices.
Some of them
right?
joined him.
Oh yeah, the Knights of Ren.
Yeah.
Is that what I don't know much about that. You probably know more about that.
I don't, because they didn't give us any backstory whatsoever.
There is backstory out there somewhere, but
is there?
Not in the movies.
Yeah, it's not in the movies. I'm just about to read the Force Awakens novelization, so there's probably some in there.
Mm.
Yeah.
But apparently Kylo Ren's the last one, so.
Is he?
I mean, there's no other Knights of Ren.
It hasn't shown him, but yeah, I guess. What if they were the Red Rail Guards?
They might be.
They could.
They're all Jar Jar Binks. What'd you think about Yoda's cameo?
I loved it. I thought that was great. Like, I really enjoyed how, like, throughout the movie you think of Luke as this, you know, he's the old wise one. Like, he's the one that's been around forever and knows what's up. But then it shows in the end that when Yoda comes around and tells Luke what's what, it kind of shows us, like, no matter how wise we think we are, there's always somebody wiser, and we could always, you know, use some... We're not immune to the knowledge of somebody wiser than ourselves just because we think we're, you know... That came out wrong because I'm tired and I don't know how to talk, but you know what I'm saying. Like, in the words of Qui-Gon, there's always a bigger fish. You know, you can always...
Yeah, that's exactly what he meant.
You can always learn something from someone else, you know?
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm getting at.
I was anticipating an Obi-Wan cameo too, but...
Yeah. And a Hayden Christensen cameo.
Yeah, and the young Anakin, his cameo.
I was really expecting a Jar Jar Binks cameo.
Yeah, man.
I was super disappointed when Jar Jar Binks wasn't in it.
He was in it. You just had to look.
Yeah.
Look farther. Could have watched it the third time.
He's in the deeper meaning.
Yeah.
I think Jar Jar...
He is the Force.
Yeah, Jar Jar really is a concept. And Jar Jar is really somebody who lies in between the lines of an intricate story.
He just took the form of a Gungan.
Yeah.
In some movies.
Yeah. Essentially. A Gungan Sith Lord.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting how they brought back the puppet. I don't know if it was an actual puppet, but
yeah,
it looked like the puppet they used in the original trilogy.
Looked better than prequel CGI Yoda.
You know, I like that one. Really? I was actually, if they brought him back, I kind of wanted to see the CGI one because that one brought more physical character to Yoda. I thought, like, it just looked better to me.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. I just felt like
this one might have been CGI, but it still looked like a puppet.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It was meant to look like that. And I feel like that's one of the things that irritates me. Like, yeah, we all know the original trilogy is better than the prequels, but you don't have to completely disregard the prequels in every single sense of the word in all of your marketing campaigns.
Yeah.
And everything you do.
Like, if they would have used a CGI Yoda, that would have, like, connected this movie with the prequels even more. So.
They're just so, like, afraid to do that because they know that most Star Wars fans are really salty about the prequels.
Most
and they're not
Star Wars fans
lose their core audience.
Are from the 70s. Yeah.
I'm from the 70s. I am the 70s.
Yes.
In a way.
We are all the 70s.
Yeah.
Because we are binded together.
Yeah.
Through the Force.
But dark side.
I feel my instinct coming out. Alright. Let's talk about the cons.
There's no cons. This movie is flawless.
This is the best Star Wars movie ever. It has a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes.
I'd say this is the second best, only to the holiday special.
Yeah, man.
The holiday special really is just a work of art. A masterpiece.
I didn't even finish watching it.
Well,
because somebody turned it.
It's just overwhelming. Overwhelmingly good.
You know, I thought it had a good plot.
Yeah.
You know?
Is just
they could have expanded. You know, I think they did great with character development.
Yeah, I think the holiday special, like, it had this deeper meaning to it.
Yeah.
It was just very nuanced.
It's like watching Rick and Morty. You have to have a special IQ.
You have to have a very high IQ to understand the holiday special. Like, when that one character's like, whip, stir, stir, whip. You're just kind of thinking, like, this is society. Like, this is what the government's doing.
Oh, man, that's stuck in my head again.
Yeah.
Alright. I noticed throughout the entire film that this was purely a Disney movie. Like, Disney had its full grasp around Star Wars in this film.
What do you mean?
The comedic effects.
Yeah.
There was a lot of comedy. Like,
there was, yeah.
Many people have said it before, and it's true that, I felt like I was watching, like, a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
An Avengers movie.
Yeah, I feel that.
Like, it works in those movies, but in Star Wars, like, you're expecting something fresh each time. Like, in the prequels, there was some silly stuff. In the originals, there was some silly stuff, but it wasn't deliberate, really. It was it was part of what...
It was very natural.
Yeah, it was natural.
Like,
it was part of the main thing. It always went back to the main thing.
Yeah,
it
was relevant to what was happening. It wasn't like something that they
took
really,
some time out of to make it funny.
Yeah, like, for example, like when Obi-Wan was looking for that star system and they couldn't find it, and Yoda was like, how embarrassing, and all the kids were like laughing. Like, that was funny, and it was natural, and it was relevant to what was happening. It's not like they took a patch of time and they were like deliberately wanted to insert a joke there.
Or in the first one, aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper?
Yeah, yeah.
That was funny, but it wasn't...
It fit with the flow of the movie.
It didn't stop the background music to change to a whole different track. And
I feel like some of the comedy landed. I feel like some of it I found funny, but
yeah, Yoda was funny. I mean,
yeah, and I thought the Poe Dameron scene at the beginning when he was like tricking Hux, like that was
that
funny.
part I thought went a little overboard. Like,
yeah, it
took too long. It dragged a little bit.
Yeah, and like, I don't know. There's just some things comedy doesn't belong in. Like, this is off topic completely. It's off franchise, actually. But you remember that Marvel movie Civil War? That movie, comedy did not belong in that movie. When former friends are literally fighting to the death over their ideological opinions, they should not be joking around with each other. Like, that just and the reason that I'm mentioning Marvel is because that's exactly what they're doing to Star Wars. Like, there's just some points where comedy doesn't belong.
Disney owns Marvel too. So
yeah, I know.
They own everything. They own this house that we're in right now.
I know, it's like a big game of, like, what's that game?
Life? Monopoly?
No, it's like Slitherio. It's like Slitherio. Like, Disney's this giant... Yeah, Agario. Disney's this just giant blob, and it keeps absorbing other blobs, and the more...
To get bigger.
The more franchises it absorbs, the bigger it gets. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, they haven't completely destroyed Star Wars. I mean...
No.
I'd say the movies are pretty on par.
Obviously.
Yeah. But, okay, what are some other cons? I mean, I'd say that's a con, but I don't think it's a very prominent con. You know?
I mean, I think it's unnecessary.
Yeah.
Like, the parts that the time they take to make those puns, it's really unnecessary.
Yeah.
I think it, actually, going back to Civil War, off topic, I think it worked in that movie because Spider-Man, you know?
Yeah.
He's a funny guy.
Yeah.
Ant-Man, too. Like, they were made funny in their own movies, so why not add that to Civil War?
I just felt like that was a more...
But it's like this...
intense atmosphere.
This chain of events, like, Marvel originated it, but then DC is copying it. Have you seen the Justice League, the movie? The new one?
Oh, it's awful.
You saw it?
It was so bad.
Alright, well, they had their own jokes, right? Like, it was basically a knockoff Avengers movie.
Yeah.
And, like, they have their jokes, Marvel has their jokes, which they obviously do them better. I feel like they're good, with the exception of Thor Ragnarok, which is for a later discussion.
I have not seen that yet.
Yeah, it's filled with jokes. Anyway, now Disney, with Star Wars, is making their own kind of brand off of funny jokes. Like, it's not a brand, but, like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? These little scenes in the movies that are like, come on now.
I would prefer they shied away from it, but it's not really something that clouds my vision of the movie. Like, it doesn't really bring it down a whole lot for me. Like, when I think of, like, when somebody's like, did you like the new Star Wars movie? I don't think, like, it was good, but the jokes kind of ruined it for me. I mean, they're, like, a little inconvenience, but I don't think of them as, like, that, prominently bad.
I feel like Rogue One was a good movie because it was serious. Like, we took it serious. We took, like, their mission serious. Like, there was little jokes.
That one robot was pretty funny, though.
Yeah, like, that was the only thing.
Yeah.
Like, in this movie, it's the main characters.
Yeah, I agree. What other kinds is there?
Weak Kylo Ren remarks.
Weak Kylo Ren remarks?
This was, like, the first thing I wanted to put down is, like, Kylo Ren, he was talking to Rey, and she was like, something like, you really are a monster. And he was like,
yes, I am.
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
And then he could have been like, well, maybe you are too. Like, that would have been a stronger remark than, well, maybe I am, or something like that. Yeah. But, like, I just feel like his character could have been stronger.
Yeah.
Like, in The Force Awakens too, like, it makes me cringe for some reason when he meets with Han Solo and is like, I've been waiting for this moment for a long time. Like, the way he says it, like, I feel like they could have gave him stronger lines, like something more poetic, like, that's to make you think, not just straightforward.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they showed that they have the capacity for good dialogue with people like Benicio del Toro. Benicio del Toro's character, his dialogue was short, it was concise, it kept with his don't care nihilistic attitude, but it was thought-provoking and poetic at the same time. And I felt like they could have done the same thing with Kylo Ren, but they just didn't.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think they were trying to portray that Kylo Ren's he's not that deep of a thinker. He's like that rebellious kid, He's just like an emo kid, kinda. He's not really like a Socrates.
Emo Kylo Ren on Twitter.
Yeah.
Give him a follow.
I love that page.
If that account's still on.
He just came back.
Oh.
Just recently. I was very happy about it.
I didn't like, and this might just be me personally, but I didn't like how they killed off Snoke and Phasma.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Like, I feel like
they're too heavily commercially market.
I thought they were gonna be like this big threat at the end of the trilogy, but they killed him off in the second movie.
Yeah, what does the First Order have now?
Right.
Kylo Ren, who's this like unstable emo kid who may or may not turn good in the end, and General Hux, who's just some Nazi-esque dude. Like,
Hux, like, he acted like he didn't care about Snoke's death. Like, he was like, what the hell happened here?
Yeah.
Then Kylo explained, and he was like, all right, let's go take down this resistance.
Yeah, okay, so the thing that really bothers me about what they did with the First Order is because what you'd expect from Episode 9 is similar to what we got in Episode 6, which is this grand battle at the end of the series.
Yeah.
But what do they have to battle against?
Right.
Because, like, the main threats were, like, Captain Phasma's this bad A kind of heavily trained stormtrooper commander with this cool armor, and she's going to be this really powerful threat.
And she didn't even get any screen
Snoke.
time.
Yeah.
Screen time in the first...
Time.
Screaming. She
Like-
didn't get any screen time in The Force Awakens and
Yeah.
barely any in The Last Jedi, and then she was killed off.
Yeah. I
Like-
agree.
Like you could say like maybe she survived. No, she didn't survive. She fell in a lake of fire in an explosion that destroyed an entire ship.
Like, this movie could have ended with like Finn and Rey fighting, or Finn and Poe fighting Phasma,
Yeah, I feel like
Rey fighting Kylo Ren, and I don't know, Luke fighting Snoke or something. Nah, I wouldn't like that.
Finn and Phasma kind of had a moment in The Last Jedi, but not the finale I was
Yeah.
expecting.
I was expecting like this grand battle at the end, like all of the scary bad guys versus all of the heroic good guys. But like now all of the scary bad guys are dead, except for Kylo Ren, who's kind of teetering back and forth as far as his morals. So like I don't really like. I feel like J.J. Abrams had this vision, and he kind of set up all these like characters and plot lines, and it was all going to come to a grand finale. And Rian Johnson just kind of beat him to the punch and just cut the head off of this vision he was building before it had chance to come full circle.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully, JJ comes back with something big
What if he's just...
in the 9th one.
What if he's just really petty and just decides to kill off, like, Benicio del Toro's character and everybody original that Rian Johnson brought?
You know what
into
would
the
be
story?
petty is like ignoring everything that happened in 8.
Just being
just
like, Phasma's back to life,
Yeah,
Snoke's back
having
to
all
life.
these characters just going about in their daily routine like nothing happened in episode 8.
That would be great, honestly. I would enjoy that movie more than any other Star Wars movie just for the comedic effect.
Yeah.
Like J.J. Abrams, like the ending of the film is just like a film of like J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson getting in a fist fight backstage with George Lucas screaming "World Star," filming it on his phone.
George Lucas behind the gates because he can't enter because he has nothing to do with the movie.
That'd be brilliant.
Episode 9 just starts with Rey and Luke back at the hilltop. You know, that's something else that was like the comedy went a little overboard, is like when Rey handed Luke the lightsaber and he threw it over the mountain. Like, the history behind that lightsaber, it just went all away. It was just thrown out the window.
Well, it came back, but they ripped it apart.
Yeah, but why would Luke do something like that? Like, he resents the Jedi. Well, not resents them, but he doesn't care for them anymore. But still, the history of that lightsaber.
Got all edgy.
Right.
He was like, something unfortunate happened. I'm just gonna go hide away and be sad forever.
But that was his father's lightsaber.
Yeah.
And his lightsaber before that. Or after that.
I think a lot of people, when talking about Luke's character, they're just kind of like saying he's a horrible representation of their childhood hero.
He was just a mess in this movie.
I kind of agree to an extent that they kind of ruined his character.
Like, I don't think he was ruined. I just think he was a homeless man.
Yeah, I just think because he was like this hopeful, very morally grounded character in the other ones, and then this one he's just kind of like, I hate everything. I hate the Jedi. I hate my mom.
Hate sand.
I hate sand. You know, he was just all like edgy and like upset, whereas in the originals he was like so hopeful and full of life. And they were like, how could they do this to my hero? How could they turn him into this sad, senile old man? But I think what people disregard when talking about this is that in the end he completely redeemed himself. Like, he sacrificed himself. Like, it just took some of Yoda's wisdom. Like, he was like all upset, but then Yoda kind of talked him back into line, which I thought was a beautiful scene and a way for the story to come full circle. And then Luke was like, you're right, I can't lose Rey. I need to give, there's still hope out there. I need to rekindle this flame which will lead to peace in the galaxy. And in this symbolic passing of the torch, he sacrificed himself so that the next generation could live on. And I thought that was really cool, and that was a cool way for him to redeem himself. His death scene was perfect and very poetic, and it mirrored the way that the story kicked off in episode 4. I don't know.
I didn't really understand his death scene. Like, I felt like it was unnecessary, and I didn't really know how that it happened.
Well, I feel like
he made Kylo Ren and everybody around him envision that he was there at wherever they were in the battle.
Mm-hmm.
And which he wasn't. He was just meditating on this rock on his other planet. Mm-hmm. But like, did all his power go into that battle?
I think
or did
so.
he just become one with the Force already, like enough to make him completely vanish from his physical form?
I kind of took it as like, I took it in kind of two ways. Like, one,
like he wasn't hurt, he wasn't injured.
Yeah, I took it in like, in one way he kind of like expended like all of his power. Like, you know, you can only get so in touch with the Force before you completely lose yourself within it, because like, the Force is everything. It's shapeless, it's formless, and it's kind of like this other field of existence. And you know, when you like reach into that other field to do things like bring a lightsaber to you, you know, you're kind of just reaching into that other field. But what he did with his astral projection was he didn't just reach into that field, he completely interjected his consciousness into that field so he could project his consciousness in a place it wasn't at, using the Force to like transcend himself. And I just think like once you completely envelop yourself in the Force, you just kind of get lost in it. And I think that's what happened. He just kind of got so close to the Force, he became one with it. Mm-hmm. And yeah. And I think in another way, if that's not the case, I think it just seemed as if he was content with dying at that point, because he'd resolved all of his issues. There's really nothing else he could do. He just completely sacrificed himself so that the next generation, he just passed the torch of hope onto the next generation, and bought time so that the next generation of hope could survive. And I just feel like at that point he knew like his job was over. There's nothing left for him to do, and he was just kind of content with like letting him slip into the Force and not fighting it.
I just thought it would have been great if Phasma lived, if Snoke lived, and if Luke lived, to like have this grand finale at the end where they could all die.
Yeah.
But at least it would have been over for the time being, like mm-hmm. these movies.
Yeah.
But like in a more heroic way.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, this was kind of heroic, but like it left off on a cliffhanger.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought the sequence between Kylo Ren and Luke Skywalker was pretty cool. Like, I think Luke quoted Obi-Wan when he said, "If you strike me down, then I'll become more powerful."
Mm-hmm.
Never.
You can't win, Darth. You strike me down, I'll become more powerful than you
can't
can ever
win,
imagine.
Ben. You cannot win.
Just like your father.
There was no real resolution to Rey's parents. Other than they were drunks who sold her for beer money.
I'll tell you what. I kind of really liked that, actually. It
was like this whole side story to The Force Awakens, like this mystery behind Rey, like who is she? Yeah. But we just learned that she's an abandoned child by some drunks.
I kind of like that, because like, if she was a Skywalker, if she was a Solo, if she was a Kenobi, then you'd be thinking like, this girl is powerful because of her bloodline. Where, like, since her parents are nobody and she's just this nobody who's powerful on her own, I think that establishes her as her own character. Like, she's her own hero. She doesn't live in the shadow of her ancestors. She's not powerful because her daddy was Luke Skywalker. She's powerful because she, on her own, is powerful. And I think that kind of sets her up as her own hero, not just somebody who's powerful because of who their ancestors were.
And I guess that further proves that the Force can be manipulated by anybody who's dedicated enough.
Yeah.
To learn its ways.
Yeah. I agree.
I disagree with the choice of keeping Leia alive, even though she might have finished filming the movie before she died. Like,
I think
that was the perfect way to write her off.
I think
when she was blown out of the ship.
Yeah. Well, I think how they should have killed her was they should have had her did with the purple-haired lady did.
Hmm.
I think they should have had Leia stay on the Resistance ship and have her do the hyperspace thing into the... Because you know how the purple-haired lady, like, in the end,
she died, didn't she?
Yeah, she sacrificed herself because she was like, somebody needs to stay on this ship and sacrifice themselves so the rest of you guys can escape. And she's like, the purple-haired lady's like, I'll do it. And she turned her ship and she hyperspaced into the, First Order Dreadnought or whatever, and just completely she's like suicide bombed herself in order to buy the Resistance some time, and that was a very heroic, poetic way for somebody to die. And so the criteria for that was it was a very poetic way for somebody to die. It was a very heroic way for somebody to die. It was a very good ending for somebody.
But had a good ending.
It had to be done by a person of power in the Resistance. And Leia's a person of power in the Resistance. She can't be in the next movie, and she deserved an epic, heroic death. So I think what they should have reshot that scene and had Leia do that thing where she kamikazed into the, sacrificed herself for the Resistance instead of the purple-haired girl.
I just think they should have went with what they originally had. Like, they swerved us because we thought Leia died when she was blown out of her ship.
Yeah,
we knew she wasn't. We knew she was gonna come back after they showed another shot of her, like, opening her eyes and floating her way back to the ship.
If they just threw us another curveball where she, like, started, like, opening her eyes and twitching, and then we just saw her, like, a look of pain in her eyes, and it's just like, she's still alive, guys. So now she gets to suffer more.
Oh no!
And slowly die. That'd have been horrible.
She's shot down by a TIE fighter.
Or Luke kills her. In a shocking turn of events, Luke uses his astral projection and just chokes her out.
Yeah. I thought it would have been cool if Kylo Ren shot the room she was in, but
Kylo Ren didn't shoot it.
Yeah, I know, but it would have been cool if he did. But I understand why he didn't, because, there's still that light trying to creep up inside of him. But it ended up getting shot out anyway, and she flew out and she, quote-unquote, died. Then she comes back. But why? I think it might have been because, like, her family might have felt cheated if she didn't finish the movie.
Well, maybe, like... Like, they're gonna have her in the original shoot, but then she died in real life, and they were like, "You gotta pay homage to her." So they were like, "All right, Carrie Fisher, let's shoot the rest of the movie since you died to kind of pay you respect."
Used her corpse.
Yeah.
CGI'd the whole movie.
They got that Jim Henson, the dude who did Yoda's puppet, to kind of puppeteer Leia's corpse.
Yeah. Yeah.
To pay respect to her, of course.
I thought it was kind of cool how Luke gave Leia the dice things. They weren't dice, but the things off the Millennium Falcon.
The golden dice.
Yeah. I don't know how he did that, though, because he wasn't in a physical form.
Yeah. No.
But then again, neither were the dice.
Didn't he
So
give
they
her a kiss,
disappeared.
too?
Yeah.
That's a mirror.
They both disappeared after he died, I guess. But and finally,
That's so weird. He kissed his sister.
yeah, I was like,
Gross.
they're gonna kiss again, aren't they? Incest.
What if they just had like a hardcore like
Tongue.
Alabama family makeout scene?
French kiss.
That would have been so funny.
I feel like the ending was a copy and paste of The Force Awakens,
What do you mean?
where somebody dies and somebody's knocked out, and the Resistance is fleeing away from the First Order. In the Force Awakens, it was Han Solo that died. It was Luke Skywalker that died in The Last Jedi. And in The Force Awakens, it was Finn that was knocked out. In this one, it's Rose that's knocked out for some reason.
Well, I think in the first one, they weren't really fleeing from the First Order.
You guys gotta keep it down.
In the first one, they weren't really fleeing for the First Order. They were more like they just destroyed their base, and they were kind of like leaving, but like in victory. Where in the second one, they were completely like decimated. They were like being kind of attacked, and they just barely kind of slipped away like in retreat. So I think it was done in a different fashion. It is true that the mentor figure died. Rose got knocked out. Yeah, I think
I just thought it was really similar.
it was pretty similar. Yeah.
So, those are my thoughts on The Last Jedi. I left the theater feeling very, very displeased with it. Now that I think about it, it's like, it wasn't that bad, but it wasn't great to me.
That was pretty good. I'd rank it above The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, probably above Revenge of the Sith, but not above any of the original trilogy. And I'd rank it above Episode 7 and
Do you want
Rogue
to just
One.
name off your list?
Yeah, sure. I'd say 6, 5, 4, 8, 3, Rogue One, 7, 2, 1.
And that's best to worst?
Yeah, no. It's worst to best. Nah, I'm just kidding. It's best to worst. Yeah, the original trilogy is my least favorite. Just by far, man. Worst movies ever.
He's kidding.
You think that?
Is it because Jar Jar's not in there?
Yeah. Man,
But what about
Jar
what
Jar
about the
really
holiday
makes-
special?
that's true. The holiday special is my number one.
Yeah, that's canon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think the holiday special is really on another level of enjoyment.
Yeah.
Because it just hits you in so many ways. Like, it's visually stunning.
Yes.
The picture, everything about it is just great. The story is
The-
insanely intricate on a poetic,
the same
philosophical
Wookiee house painting
yeah.
of every shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think my least favorite is let's see here. It's probably
Attack of the Clones.
Attack of the Clones. Then it's Rogue One. I don't know. It's Attack of the Clones. Rogue One. The Phantom Menace.
Really? Rogue One's your second least favorite?
Yeah.
You didn't like it?
I liked it. It just wasn't great.
I thought it was pretty good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, Attack of the Clones, Rogue One, Phantom Menace, A New Hope, Revenge of the Sith, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. I put Revenge of the Sith high on the list because that's the one I grew up with, and I remember seeing that at the movie theaters, and I thought it was awesome.
Yeah. I remember seeing A New Hope in the movie theaters.
And I think it's... Oh, really?
Yeah.
Was that a special showing?
No.
Or was it at the
Opening
premiere?
night.
1977?
Yeah.
Nice.
1977, man. I was there. I'm George Lucas.
Takes off the mask.
Yeah. In a way, we're all George Lucas.
Yes.
In a way, we're all Jar Jar Binks. In a way, Mace Windu is Snoke.
Snoke is dead. So is Mace Windu.
You know that movie God is Not Dead?
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a rendition, but it's gonna be like Snoke is not dead.
He's surely alive.
Shirley Temple.
Is there anything else you want to add about The Last Jedi?
Snoke is Shirley Temple.
Hopefully
I don't think
J.J. Abrams brings something new
J.J. Abrams.
and fresh to the Star Wars saga. He's gonna have a great time explaining Leia's part in the movie. Well, thanks for the conversation.
You're welcome.
It was a great review of The Last Jedi. Viewer discretion, there are spoilers. I am adding this at the end of the video.
It's a little late for that, don't you think?
No, it's fine. Only an hour in, and it's never too late.
Somebody's gonna hear you say that and be like, oh, I gotta turn it off.
Right. Alright, you will make your own opinions about it. I personally, it wasn't my cup of tea.
No, I don't really think they're allowed to make their own opinions. I
They're
think they
not.
really just have to agree with what I said.
With what we say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, if they're gonna, listen to us, they have to kind of agree. If they make their own...
They have to be devoted to us.
Yeah, if they're gonna disagree on anything, they might as well unsubscribe, because they're not really worth living.
Right. Barely have any subs anyway.
Exactly.
Alright. See you in, a year, maybe, for the next one? Right?
Yeah.
Episode 9.
No, the next one's Han Solo.
Is it?
Yep.
See you for Han Solo.
Han Solo Kenobi.
Yes.
Possibly.
Alright, what's up, guys? I'm back.